Hello, everybody. Welcome in. This is Stuck in the Catch Fence. And you're like, that idiot's waving a yellow flag because I have a green screen and you can't see green. So there you go. My name
Doesn't
is,
work.
it does not work. We tried it. Joe let me do it and it was embarrassing. My name's Ryan Peters. I look like the alias of what was Ryan Peters, but I promise it's still me. I'm joined by my other co-host, Joe Spillman. Joe, how are
That's
you?
me. Oh, I'm great, and I'm taking full advantage of the filters we have here on our live streaming services to cover up my burnt face. You can kind of see it a little bit. I am peeling somewhat. Of course, that's what happens when you sit in metal bleachers for 12 hours at a time in direct sunlight. But it was all worth it. I actually blame this not so much on the NASCAR Cup race, but on the Xfinity race that took 9.5 hours to get through two stages.
It just got done.
It did. It legitimately just got done.
We were worried the haulers weren't going to make it to COTA. I mean, it was crazy.
Terrible.
Also, want to say hi to our good friend Kyle Petty. Kyle, how are you doing?
Hey,
he looks very happy, maybe because he's not slandering Ryan Blaney right now. But Joe, I want to get this show started. First off, we were in Atlanta. I had a quick recap and discuss what happened there, but you were there as well. So I want you to just kind of give us what your overall thoughts were being at the track, the race in general, and everything that had to do driving down to the ATL.
Oh, man. Well, I'll tell you what, Atlanta traffic is no fun at all.
Oh,
And nobody ever wakes up and is like, hey, I want to drive through Atlanta, because that's terrible. I don't know how you could have 7 lanes of traffic and not move.
They do it every time.
It just doesn't make sense to me.
Every time.
But anyway, as you know, I camped out down at Atlanta. It was a good experience. I will tell you, if you plan on camping at Atlanta, I have camped at better racetracks, especially for Bruton Smith track. Typically you get a gravel lot, shower houses, things like that. I don't think that they had the shower houses out, maybe because of the temperature. I'm going to chalk it up to that. I never really asked, but it had rained on Friday. We got down there on Saturday morning, and of course, the lots were grass, so we had to deal with mud, a little bit of mud, but it didn't rain for the week. Yeah, grass. It was in mud, so my camper got nice and muddy, which is okay. I'm willing to brave that. But besides that, I thought the track was amazing. Of course, we caught the truck race. I thought it was a great truck race, and then that went into the Xfinity race, which has to be the longest Xfinity race in the histrry of NASCAR.
It was. It actually was.
Was it? Oh,
yes.
Yeah. I was going to say it had to be. Just wreck after wreck. I don't know, because the truck drivers seem to figure it out. I don't know how you move up a level, and Xfinity drivers can't seem to figure out how to drive on that track. But let's just move into the Cup race, because that's what everybody wants to hear about. When I first started watching the Cup race in the next gen cars, man, I thought it was great. I was on my feet. You had 2 wide. They were racing around the track, and they did that for, I don't know, we'll call it 25 laps or so. And
it was probably the last 30 or 40, because the last stage was 100. So yeah. I think it was probably the last 30 or 40 laps.
Yeah. So you're right. So the racing stage 1 kicked off. It was great. You could tell, man, this is going to be a great track. After the initial, the back and forth, watching that, they did fall into single line racing, follow the leader for the majority of the race. You and I both commented at each other while they were there. NASCAR is going to have to figure this out. Atlanta's going to have to figure this out. Of course, you went last year, and and I watched it on TV. And you kind of kept saying, no, they'll race here, but it almost kind of lulled you to sleep. And I understand that, when you watch a NASCAR race, you got to understand that not only is it a shootout at the finish, but, those drivers also have to make it 400 miles, right? So you can't race all out for 400 miles, or you see exactly what happened to Kyle Larson in the final stage when you're racing 2 wide around that track. So I'll say the last 30 laps of that track, nobody sat down, or, everybody was standing. That was some of the most exciting racing I've ever seen in person. And the fastest car won. Kyle Larson, I root for Kyle Larson. I thought he had a chance there. Got caught up in a wreck, no fault of his own, kind of ruined my day. But I'm glad I went. I'm glad I experienced it. Great place to watch a race. If you ever get a chance to go, you need to go. I mean, it is what it is. It's a super speedway on 1.5 miles, and there's nothing quite like it.
No, there's not. And the next race will be July 4th. And I promise you it'll be warmer than 48 degrees, I think was the warmest we ever got.
Right.
The one thing I will say, and if you wonder why Joe wasn't on the recap, well, he was in Tennessee. And
that's right.
He enjoyed himself while there.
Well, can I say something? Let me say something about that because, Pigeon Forge, Gatlinburg, if you ever been there, it's great. I don't know why people that live where we live go to Pigeon Forge and Gatlinburg because
I think all of our county went, Joe, to be completely honest.
No, I think so too. But that is an absolute money pit. I mean, you're talking, you can't go out to eat for less than $300 at Pigeon Forge or Gatlinburg. It's absolutely ridiculous. But we live in a very, very rural area, Ryan. And we have hills and nice county roads. And I can walk out on my front porch and not even see a neighbor. I don't know why I go down to Gatlinburg and Pigeon Forge to enjoy nature with millions of other people. But it is what it is. My family wanted to go. We had a good time. But I'm glad to be home.
It's Atlanta traffic on one way going inside. So that's great. But I do want to say this, and I said this in the show, and I don't know if you got to watch that or not, Joe, but I said the funniest part, which it wasn't funny because my driver spun out, didn't know if he got wrecked, didn't know if he was done. And literally the next thing out of your mouth is, well, at least we haven't seen a tire fail in a while.
Oh, no.
It couldn't have been 10 laps later. We have a blown tire by Eric Almirola, and it takes out Kyle Larson. And I thought you were going to leave, but no, it was a great time.
I was not happy. Yeah. I actually said we need to do a show on the tires this year because we beat up Goodyear all last year and all the tire failures that they had. I was like, we really haven't seen any this year. Next thing you know, Kyle Larson's going home because of a blown tire. So,
yeah. Goodyear's like, we gotcha. So
that's what you
it was rough.
Terrible.
It was rough on that aspect, but again, the sun won, as you can tell. Like Monday, this didn't look that bad. It's terrible. It burned really bad Tuesday. Everybody thought that I was tanning. If you know me, that's not true. Now they're going to wonder if I have some disease because I've always had facial hair and it's gone. So, I might have committed a crime and I'm trying to hide. I don't know, Joe. I don't know what's going on outside of I'm 30 plus years old and I don't know how to shave.
Well, who thinks that you're going to get some, like, it looks like I went on vacation to the Florida Keys as burned up as I am. And it's like, who thinks they're going to get sunburned in 35-degree weather? That's the last thing you think about. Like, hey, let's go to the race. Don't forget the sunscreen when it's 35 degrees outside.
Yeah.
Terrible.
And I had to buy sunscreen to go to Sunday's race because I was worried that I was going to get some type of sun poisoning. But again, it was a great time. I'm so glad that I went. I was glad that you was able to go with your kids, Joe. It was a great time, and I really enjoyed it. But let's go ahead and take a look at the NASCAR standings so far. Right now, because of the win, Joey Logano is at the top. Ross Chastain moves his way into second place, and these are projected playoff standings if it was to end now. Christopher Bell up in third place. So if this looks familiar, well, this is 3 of the final 4, and so that shouldn't be too shocking to anybody. Mm-hmm. Moving on down, a guy that I talked about a lot, at least on the show, was Corey LaJoie, currently in 14th place. I think that's awesome for him so far. He's had a really, really good season. Surprised to see Austin Cindric this high. That kind of shocked me. William Byron, look at this. That's because of the points hit and losing the playoff points. The guy with 2 wins is now, stuck in 9th place. But Brad Keselowski's up there too. He's shown really great speed. But moving on down, Alex Bowman got absolutely nailed by that playoff. Kyle Larson, after being nailed by it, is down in 32nd. And then still with negative 25 points is Justin Haley. So those are your playoff standings. Joe, do you have anything that, kind of makes you glare at that or surprising you?
other than when we look at Kevin Harvick there, what if he's sixth in points right now? What is he on the actual list? Eighth, and
He's eighth in playoff, sixth in actual points. Yes.
and I'll tell you what, he had a good car in Atlanta. I mean, I think he lost it is what it came down to. I think everybody thought, or we initially thought Ross Chastain, he might have got Chastain, but it looks to me when I watched the replay that he just kind of lost it. But I'll tell you what, he had a good car, and I think for his last season, he may be trying to make a run at this thing.
Yeah. I mean, he's looked really good. I think sixth place is actually, or eighth in the playoff, sixth in regular standings, does not tell you how good he's been. He's been literally up there. Probably should have had a win. We've already discussed that ad nauseum previously, but otherwise he's been really, really good this year. Some of the news: Chase Elliott is going to be in the booth at COTA. He will join Kurt Busch and Gunther Steiner. And if you're wondering who Gunther Steiner is, that is the principal primary person that runs Haas Motorsports on the Formula One side. So I'm actually really excited for that. Fox might have to have their mute/beep buzzer going at all times, because Gunther has never been shy to say a few F-bombs.
Oh,
so that, it's hilarious. He's great. If you've ever watched the Netflix special on Formula One, Gunther's on there. He's a star. It's literally made him into a star on that show.
Yeah.
And I believe NASCAR said March 29th, they're going to hear the appeal. So it's going to be a couple weeks still. They're not going to be without their drivers. Justin Haley and College Motorsports have taken the appeal process and not suspended their crew chief, but everybody else for Hendrick Motorsports has. So they will still be using their interim crew chiefs.
Now, do you think that maybe they went ahead with the suspension, Hendrick kind of self-imposed before the appeal, so they have their crew chiefs back for when Chase Elliott comes back? Do you think that's the thought process there?
I think that's part of it. I also don't think that helps you in an appeal. So I feel like if I was College Motorsports, I would say, no, this is BS. I'm keeping my crew chief until you guys make an official ruling after our appeal.
Right.
That's just how I would run things. And COTA will be the first race that we see with this new aero package on a road course. We saw it on the short track at Phoenix with mixed results, kind of a different track, kind of not really a great track. Now we'll see what it does on road courses. And last year, Joe, you and I both know one of the best finishes that we had all of last year. Not something I really, really liked as we talked about it when it happened. But Ross Chastain did the old two birds with one stone and knocked out Alex Bowman and AJ Allmendinger to win his first ever race. And he will be going up into the observation tower at 253 feet high above turns 15 and 16. And because that was his first win, he is going to drop a watermelon from the observation tower. So that seems unnecessary. I believe just smashing it off of the 6 feet high car, if it's even that, or not even 6 feet, it can't be 6 feet. I mean, otherwise Kyle Petty would be like 9 feet tall.
Are you making this up?
I swear to God, this is happening. He's going up in the red observation tower, which you can see. That's part of like COTA's look, and he's dropping a watermelon from it as the celebration of his inaugural win. So hopefully we get some like slow motion camera. It looks like an explosion, Otherwise, I don't really get it. I thought maybe Dude Perfect would be there and like they're trying to throw it through a basketball goal or something. I don't know. It is what it is.
Seems a bit ridiculous to me.
It seems like a good waste of a watermelon, if you ask me.
It does. Well, he wastes watermelons every time he wins, but I don't understand that. So a year later, he's just like, you know what? I think I'm going to drop a watermelon out of that tower over there.
I guess, and then maybe at Martinsville a year later, he's just going to just run the entire wall for like his qualifying lap or something. I don't know.
It's official. I hate that guy.
I'm making a stand against watermelons, and for an 8th generation watermelon farmer, he and his ancestors and his grandpappy's pappy did not get to that point by smashing watermelons. Gallagher did not die for this.
Yeah, it's not just that. It's everything that encompasses Ross Chastain that I hate. This is just kind of the icing on the cake. I've decided this is the straw that broke the camel's back. I no longer like that guy.
And we all know Ross Chastain, if he was a watermelon, would have seeds. That being said, let's get to our first topic. And this is one that I have been waiting for you patiently, Joe, to join me with, as we both were there. It witnessed it right in front of us. I think you were kind of dumbfounded at the time because I had Twitter pulled open just at the time because, as you said, there was 4,000 caution laps. So it's not hard to get on your phone. During one of these caution laps, we had a man named Josh Williams decide that when he was told he's no longer to race anymore, he was going to park it right there on the start-finish line and then go home.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why this happened, again, to go back, the first stage of this race was 90% caution laps, and that's not being exaggerated. It was cold. It sucked. It was hard to watch. We both looked at each other. We were making over-under bets when the next wreck would happen, and we were settling on 2 laps, and we freaking hit the under almost every time. That being said, Josh Williams was caught in one of these 40,000 accidents, and they decided to put bear bond on. Again, it was cold. I don't know how bear bond sticks to a car when it's cold. My guess is probably not, because things on a vehicle are supposed to be really, really warm. He's driving around the track to go back onto the speedway before the green lap. They wave the green lap, but before the green lap happens, and I don't know if you knew this, the bear bond fell off the car during the caution flag in turns 1 and 2. I witnessed it. I saw it. I didn't say nothing because I'm like, oh, NASCAR will get it. No, they didn't. Which isn't a shocker if you watch that New Hampshire when the entire first half of the field wrecked because they didn't know it was raining. Not that I'm upset Kyle was in first place, but they throw the caution flag. NASCAR then decided to park Josh Williams because the bear bond fell off and said, Josh, you're no longer allowed to race. They didn't do that to anybody else. I cannot remember it, Joe, for a piece of debris on first offense ever having a car being parked. And now it's come out that Josh is suspended for a race for parking his car at the start-finish line. Do you think that that is a justified suspension, or do you think NASCAR is trying to save face?
Absolutely not. I think NASCAR is 100% trying to save face. And so when that happened, it happened right in front of us because we were sitting on the start finish line,
literally
on that race or during that race. And I actually thought he was stopped to get back in position at first. And then I was like, what in the hell is he doing? And I was like, what the hell is he doing? I looked at you. I was like, what the hell is he doing? And then he climbs out of his car. And I thought he threw everybody the bird. On replay, he threw the peace sign.
Yeah.
It was the peace sign. And, so I didn't know what was going on initially. And when I found out that it was for bear bond falling off of his car, I don't know what he's supposed to do. They put it on the car. It's 30 degrees outside. It's not going to stick to the car. Everybody knows that. I think that what they were trying to do in that instance was he actually extended the caution, I believe, or is what they determined?
No, they had to throw another caution because they didn't see the tape.
Okay, yeah. Okay. And that race was already way out of control with cautions. I mean, it was ridiculous. People were leaving. And just to let everybody know, because you couldn't probably see this on TV, about the 5th or 6th caution in, I mean, people were just heading out of that in droves like it was a blowout in a football game. I mean, because it was just absolutely ridiculous. And I'm sure that if you were watching it on TV, that's exactly what you were doing as well, is clicking channels and coming back and going, oh, look, there's another caution. But, I think he did what was appropriate. I think that, we've seen other drivers, maybe not at the start finish line. I don't recall that I've ever seen that before, where you just park your car at the start finish line. But
I've never seen that. No.
We saw Kyle Busch last year just park his car right there on pit road and leave it. I don't think he got in too much trouble for that, or any, did he? He didn't get fined.
He got fined, an undisclosed amount, they said. And Kyle's what?
Says,
oh, go
Cody
ahead.
Turner says cautions make it interesting.
They make it interesting when it's not every other lap.
Yeah.
Because again, it's 35 degrees outside, and the whole reason why we watch the sport is because we want the cars to go fast. We joked, Joe, the average speed of the first half of that race was probably 60 miles an hour.
Oh, it had to, not only was it the longest race, it had to be the lowest average speed of any mile and a half track in the history of NASCAR either. Or as well, because, like I said, it was just terrible, the amount of cautions that they had. But getting back to Josh Williams, I think he did what everybody probably would have had a thought of doing. And with him going, well, this really isn't my fault, and you're going to park me and not let me finish the race. Here, have another couple caution laps. And that's exactly what he did. And I think that by suspending him a race, I think NASCAR is really, like you said, just trying to save face, saying, well, you embarrassed us, so we're going to take a race away from you. What NASCAR should have did is swallowed their pride and said, touche, young man, touche, don't do that again or you're going to get suspended. That's my opinion.
Two wrongs don't make a right. Is Josh Williams, should he be parking his car at the start finish line and that set a precedence every time a NASCAR ruling is made that's what a driver does? No. But at the same time, we don't see drivers get parked. We just don't see drivers ever get parked in a race. And again, going to what was precedent, that's where I have this problem, Joe. And we've shared a short, and that was last year at Las Vegas where Bubba Wallace right hooked Kyle Larson, which is the most dangerous thing you can do in NASCAR. Mm-hmm. My driver has done it before to Ron Hornaday, and rightfully so got suspended. Not only did he right hook him, he then got out of the car while the cars were still on the tarmac, and then tried to fight him afterwards. And what did Bubba Wallace get suspended? One race.
He didn't.
He got
you're right. You're right.
He got suspended one race. You cannot tell me that this is close to the same thing. Number one, Bubba Wallace, try not to be insensitive or trying to blow it out of proportion, whatever you want to call it. He could have killed somebody. You right hook somebody and send somebody up flying into head first, nose first, into the wall. You could literally kill somebody. And then that wasn't good enough. Bubba then had to be a PAB, and you can fill out that, whatever you want to call it, then tried to fight him after sending him head first for incidental contact coming out of a turn. Right. Josh Williams was wrongfully penalized. He was then had the aggression of NASCAR taken out on him when he did nothing wrong as a driver. Let me say that to you again. He did nothing wrong as a driver. You can tell the crew chief you don't like how that worked out. You can tell the owner of the team, hey, if you're going to put bear bond on, make sure that this is on there the right way so we don't have to extend this already godforsaken race. This was a first-time offense, and not only was Josh Williams wrongfully the way that they penalized him, they gave him the death penalty. For somebody that's never, ever been in the most people never heard of Josh Williams. And this is a low team, a mid-tier team if you're going to be polite, and they gave him the death penalty. Would they do the same thing if Chase Elliott had bear bond come off his car? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And they shouldn't. That's the point, is that they shouldn't. And for NASCAR to have that type of an ego, to then not only park him, then suspend him, two wrongs don't make a right. Josh Williams shouldn't have parked on the checkered, start-finish line. But he peacefully protested the best way that I thought he could. This is wrong. I'm getting screwed. He is getting screwed. His sponsors are getting screwed. And he said, this is the best way I know of handling it. And NASCAR, like NASCAR does, and Joe, I've been on the NASCAR officiating. I've been on the positive side of it. The last few races, I've said, hey, I see both sides of this. I understand where they're coming from. Not this. This is stupid. This is absolutely irrational. And the fact that NASCAR couldn't come out and said, you know what, we pulled the trigger on black flagging him. We let emotions get the best of us. And Josh Williams should have been allowed to finish that race as somebody who was a first-time offender. And that's not what they did. They stuck to their horses and said, sorry, Josh Williams, we'll see you in a week. And I just think that's absolutely terrible. And it almost makes it to where I don't even know. It's so subjective that anytime somebody now has debris fall off their car, I'm like, park them. That's the precedent. You said park them.
You're right. And Cody Turner says NASCAR is trying to make an example out of him. I don't know that it is an example that NASCAR is trying to make. Josh Williams showed up NASCAR, and this is what they're doing because they have the almighty power to do so. And you're absolutely right when you make the point about Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson, Kyle Busch. None of them would have been, let alone parked. They wouldn't have been suspended for this because we've seen similar instances where drivers have done way more egregious things, like your point to Bubba Wallace, right hooking Kyle Larson, getting suspended for a race. I do like what Josh Williams said, though. What are you going to do? Fine me? I don't have the money to pay it. That's great. But, at the end of the day, I guess Denny Hamlin was up to pay any fine that they were going to give him anyway. So I think that he did exactly what any driver in that situation would have wanted to do. And I could almost guarantee if that was Bubba Wallace or Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott, any of them would have done the same thing. They wouldn't have got suspended because there's money there. There's sponsors there. Who's Josh Williams? Like you said, nobody's ever heard of Josh Williams unless you follow NASCAR intently. Why would you know who he is? So they're gonna basically be the big bully in this situation and suspend him for a race, which I think is absolutely ridiculous. So, at the end of the day, I can't agree with this penalty. I've just become a Josh Williams fan. For here on out, I might buy a t-shirt. I don't think I'll ever wear it, but I might buy a t-shirt. He's got a pretty cool mullet going on. So, maybe I get a t-shirt with his picture or something on it, sport that around. I will say though, to your point about Kyle Larson, when he right hooked, who did he right hook? It was in a truck race.
It was Kyle Busch. He right hooked Ron Hornaday.
Yeah. In a truck race, correct?
Yes. In a truck race.
That was under caution. It was, if I remember right, that was under caution. It was still kind of a bad wreck. Kyle Busch was a little ticked off about something. So they weren't really up to speed. It still ended up in the fence for both of them. Bubba Wallace was way more egregious. They did that under green. That was at 180 miles an hour. He legitimately could have killed Kyle Larson or himself in that situation. Last year, thinking back on it, in that situation, Bubba Wallace should have been suspended for the entirety of the season at that point. So
due to the serious nature of it, you're exactly right.
Exactly.
And the precedent was set too by Kyle Busch. You mentioned it at Darlington. Kyle Busch parked his car. He was going to go into the garage and he said, "You know what? Last year you guys told me I drove too fast, so I'm going to make sure that doesn't happen." So he peacefully protested by leaving his car in the middle of the track. And I mean, Dale Earnhardt Jr. almost had a heart attack and a stroke combined, but not suspended. There's no difference in this except that maybe cars, because they're on the caution flag, are still on the track. But that's not how NASCAR should do these things. That's not the way that they should. For first-time offenders, if it's an habitual offender, I'm not going to give any leniency. I understand that. Kyle Busch does not deserve leniency with the things that he's done before. And he got leniency because you know why? He's Kyle Busch. He's KFB. He's Kyle effing Busch. Anybody else would have got the same thing. Josh Williams got absolutely screwed. And if they're trying to make him the example, why? What? I mean, we talk about them trying to bring the sport down to Rick Ware Racing and BJ McLeod level. Why make Josh Williams the one that dies on the cross? I don't know.
I don't know either. Find the Doggo says he wants a t-shirt with just the hair and the shades. I agree. So do I. So do I. You know what? You should maybe make that t-shirt and sell it because I think people are going to buy it. And then Cody Turner,
I believe if you go on joshwilliamsracing.com, you can find a lot of t-shirts of Josh Williams.
Yeah, and I'm going to have to do that. Cody Turner says, Joe, who's the guy you're on here with? Did Atlanta take Ryan's facial hair? It did. It did.
Well, there goes my smile.
Yeah.
Sometimes we should think about disabling the chat.
Well, I don't. Yeah. No, I kind of like it.
I'm sure. That being said, we're going to move on now to something I've been thinking about, Joe. I've been watching and you've been watching and you had a bad night, even though it was a great, great game. The World Baseball Classic and how these things correlate together with what's happening. Because, Joe, you and I, we do other sports shows and, baseball is my favorite sport. I love watching NASCAR. I love covering NASCAR, but to play and grow up with, it was baseball. And I know you had a strong baseball background in your family as well. And all we've heard for the last few years is baseball's dead.
Mm-hmm.
Baseball's dead. Baseball's dead. Nothing you can do. It's too long, blah, 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 blah. The World Baseball Classic in the middle of preseason showed baseball's not dead if you do the right things
Right.
to market it, to bring it to light. And that's why I wanted to ask you this, because I think baseball and NASCAR are a lot in the same way. NASCAR, a lot of people say NASCAR's dead. Now, former host on this show would say that Formula One is getting ready to take over NASCAR in terms of popularity, in terms of viewership. And, and you and I have talked off air, and you said that sometimes you feel NASCAR is headed in the wrong direction. Now seeing what baseball has had and the way that it's rejuvenated it, brought a positive light to it. I mean, the entire world was watching it. And do you think NASCAR, do they have a hard time marketing their stars? Do they not have enough stars? Or is it simply that NASCAR is in trouble? And because I've been having these thoughts, I don't think NASCAR is dead. I think NASCAR is on an upward swing, but I do think they have the same problem in terms of marketing. But what are your thoughts in terms of, revitalizing NASCAR to what it was not even 20 years ago?
As far as marketing, Ryan, I don't know. I actually think that NASCAR does a good job putting out, I won't say information, but as far as advertising for upcoming races, I think they do a good job with that. I think that NASCAR took a wildly wrong turn, and hopefully I don't get canceled by this because I don't really mean anything by it. So I'm just going to caveat that. But I think that NASCAR tried in the last several years to become way too politically correct with things. And I think it got away from their base of fans that they had. And I think that, and I'll say this, when you see a driver, as we've seen the last couple of years, haven't really seen it this year. So I think that maybe the understanding of the mistake that was made, I think that is starting to be understood. But we have seen a driver marketed as the face of the NASCAR or face of NASCAR that hasn't done anything in the sport but win one rain delayed race. Or two now. That's right. 2 races. Wildly inconsistent driver. Not a huge fan base that supports him within the sport. But for whatever reason, we, for several years, and I mean the NASCAR community and NASCAR in general, market him as the face of this sport. I think that turns a lot of people off because for the most part, while the general public says stupid things and people can be stupid in general, most people aren't stupid and they see right through that. And and it turns people off because basically, just like Mike Joy basically trolling fans a couple weeks ago by saying, for all you keyboard warriors, this is our last, excuse me, this is our last break. That infuriated, I can't even say it made me mad.
I'm pissed.
It made me mad. So, I think for the most part, fans do the same thing. But also, I think that, I've said this before. We live in a generation now where people look for instant gratification. And I mentioned this, I don't know how many times. And the problem is you have to understand the sport of NASCAR to really enjoy it. And I think maybe, as far as marketing the sport, I don't know if other things can be done as far as setting time frames for races. So, obviously the third stage of any race is going to be the most exciting. You won't see how drivers got there, but that's going to be the most exciting race, part of the race. It was in Atlanta. We saw 2 wide racing the whole second half of stage 3 in Atlanta. And it was intense racing. And normally you get that. And so with today's generation, I'm talking, 16 to 30, they want instant gratification. And if you tell them that you're going to watch a sport and for the majority of the first 3/4 of the race, the drivers, this is going to be a war of attrition and the drivers are going to do what they can to make it to the last half of stage 3 to win, set themselves up for a win. And you're going to see follow the leader racing because that's part of the sport as well. Part of the sport of NASCAR is making sure your car can run 400 or 500 miles. And that is part of the marketability of NASCAR too. That's what really the sport was all about is, hey, who has the best car? Who could do this? Who can run the fastest for the longest time? And it may not be so exciting for a while. Understanding that as part of the sport will help you get through it. And I think you have to be a true fan. But if you want to see bumping and wrecking and hard racing, then the part of the race that you want to watch is the last half of stage 3. And maybe, I don't know if it would be a good idea for NASCAR to look at it and say, this is going to be stage 1 and 2. We are going to market when stage 3 is going to be on. We're going to give a timetable at the end of stage 2. I understand you got to keep the cars going, but we should be in stage 3 about this time. If that's what the portion of the race you want to watch, tune in then. I don't know if that was something that could help. It's just a thought, but I don't think that NASCAR, getting back to your question, I don't think that NASCAR does a horrible job marketing the race before the race. I think they do a terrible job marketing the race during the race, if that makes sense.
There's parts that I agree with and parts that I don't. Number one, I never bow down to Zoomer generation. I just simply don't. Kids that don't have a 15-second attention span, that's not who I'm building my product around. Either society's going to have to change, or we'll just fail altogether in general, because society's not built upon keeping a 30-second attention span. I don't care if it's your job. I don't care if it's your college. I don't care if it's your family. Something's going to have to change. So I'm not building my foundation on a pile of sand. So that's just, I've always felt that way. Something's going to have to change, and more than likely it's going to be our generation, your generation, that has to teach our kids that, hey, this is not the way that the country should be run or society should run in general, because you guys are doing really bad statistically on every single thing possible. Moving on from that, I think NASCAR has a hard time, like the MLB, understanding their fans. And I think you nailed it right on the head. First, Mike Joy, keyboard warriors. We're not keyboard warriors. We want to enjoy your product. I already went on that rant before. But the people that do are your hardcore fans that want to watch all 400 miles, you then spit on. Mike Joy came out and apologized for it, because it's 2023, so we have to apologize for everything whenever we say something that's spicy. So again, something that it's like, okay, either you believe it or you don't. Mike Joy comes out and apologizes, and the only thing I sent back is, I find it weird, Mike Joy, you're attacking the people that actually want to enjoy your product for 400 laps. You already mentioned, Joe, that there's people out there that may only want to watch the third stage, and Mike Joy's spitting on the people that want to watch stage 1 and 2. So right. Where the hell's that coming from? The other part of it is, I remember back in the day, and you can still find them at least in the rural areas, pop machines that had Dale Jarrett on it because he was Coca-Cola racing, or this person was in a commercial, or this driver was, doing that. And you don't see that anymore. And I think NASCAR's had a hard time with that. And then at the same time, the driver that shall not be named, that I will name Bubba Wallace, has been put to the forefront, not because of the racing ability of himself, but because of all the things that have surrounded him, not in his control. And then on top of it said, he's a good driver. There is now a stinger when it comes to the next race. And I'm a Kyle Busch fan. I don't think that that's a secret. He's not on there. Bubba Wallace is. Bubba Wallace has as many wins as Kyle Busch has championships. You're telling me that you're going to market a championship or a driver with 2 wins versus 2 championships? And to the same point, Joe, where NASCAR fans aren't stupid, who got the loudest boos at the track?
Mm-hmm.
Bubba Wallace. Who went nuts when they got wrecked by themselves 10 laps in? Bubba Wallace. And you know why? Because NASCAR fans aren't stupid. And that's why we do this show, because mainstream media, again, wants to throw this in their face. No, you like this guy. No, you want to cheer for this guy. And here we are on an alternative platform saying, no, this is what NASCAR fans truly relate to. It's a Kyle Petty. It's that older generation that's willing to tell it like it is, but also drive the right way on top of it. So I think NASCAR has tried to push what they want fans to like versus actually understand what they want fans to like. And it is different. We are in a different sport. They tried to do something. I like the playoffs. I don't mind stages. I know a lot of people don't. But the people that don't like stages and don't like the playoffs, guess what? They don't watch anyway. Same people for baseball. The people that you hear the most, I don't like baseball. It's 3.5 hours. Well, when's the last time you went? 10 years ago? Then you never liked baseball 10 years ago either. So, I mean, we can't keep catering and trying to get people to like something that they don't like. And the last thing I will say on this show, we've hit this ad nauseum. You have to get people representing your sport that love your sport and can educate on your sport. Darrell Waltrip and Larry McReynolds love, breathe, and have lived NASCAR their entire lives. When you didn't understand something, they told you why it was important. Larry McReynolds explained to you what it was like to be on top of pit wall and why they had to do these things when it comes to pit strategy and all these different things. Darrell Waltrip would tell you, Joe, well, these drivers are being careful. They just saw what happened in the Xfinity race last night. They're not going to be going all out right now. They want to save the car, save the product, because they got 400 miles to race. This isn't a sprint. This is a marathon. The Cup Series is a marathon, and we don't have that no more. Instead, we get a stupid grid walk of Michael Waltrip running around asking dumb questions. We get Clint Boyer speaking over top of everybody, making stupid comments. And we got Danica Patrick, not even sure if she's watched a race within the last 15 years until she got back in the booth. And until you fix those things, NASCAR will not be like it could be back in 2000, 2003. And I don't know what the right answer right now is to fix that. I love the fact they're bringing Kurt Busch in, because I do know this. I've heard Kurt Busch in the booth, and he loves NASCAR. That dude is at every single track, and he's not even allowed to race. So I know Kurt Busch loves NASCAR. I like the idea of bringing Gunther Steiner in, not only because he's entertaining. Who else wouldn't know how to run a road course race, especially Gunther Steiner, who's going to prepare for COTA in the Formula One car moving forward? And bringing in Chase Elliott, which, Chase Elliott might be – I think Chase Elliott is Fox's Hail Mary for ratings.
Right.
But at the same time, at least they're trying it. NASCAR needs to get back to its grassroots. And I think NASCAR drivers are doing that by running in the SRX, which are at smaller tracks. We're learning more and more. I just saw today, I don't know if you saw this, Joe, before the Bristol dirt race, Kyle Busch is going to race in a late model. I've never heard Kyle Busch race in a late model my entire life. And he is actually going to race for Kyle Larson Motorsports and race in a late model car.
Nice.
Those are the type of things that build that up. But will NASCAR promote that? Absolutely not. And that's where you have to do it. That's where the kids are. That's where the younger generation are, is at their local track, and they're not doing it. And I've said this to you, Joe. I've said that I truly believe NASCAR can be on the up and up, and to a certain extent is, maybe not on TV viewership, but at least attending. We saw a great audience there at Atlanta, but there's so much more they could do better. And I think the World Baseball Classic showed the product's not the thing suffering. It's the people around it that are trying to promote it.
No, I can't disagree. And my statements as far as maybe advertising the third stage is just, kind of spitballing, really. I think that's kind of ridiculous. I couldn't imagine watching a race and saying, hey, I'm going to tune in for the last 100 laps of the race without knowing how they got there.
Not to interrupt you, Joe.
Yeah.
I don't mind if they do that on Twitter. Hey, the stage is getting ready to come on. Tune in right now.
Right. And we see that. You see that in every sport. You see that in basketball. You see that in baseball, as far as ESPN putting it out.
UFC championship rounds.
Yeah. We got a close one. Exactly. So, but to your point, and I think that you made it very well. If you didn't watch the first two stages, there's not many people going to tune in to watch the third stage. You're either watching the race or you're not. As far as the sport goes, I think, and jumping back to Bubba Wallace, and correct me if I'm wrong, did you see even one Bubba Wallace t-shirt at all?
I saw three. Three
okay.
Bubba Wallace fans the entire time that we were there. And we were in the South. I'm pretty sure he's from Montgomery, Alabama. I could fact check that. But it's not like he's not that far away from where his diehard fan should be.
Well, and to my thought, we saw Terry Labonte. We saw a couple of them. We saw one guy in full gear. We saw Ricky Bobby. We saw Dale Jarrett. You talk about, every driver you could think of, past and present, you saw an abundance of. I didn't see one Bubba Wallace, but, if you saw three of them, you saw three of them. But you're absolutely right. He spun out. He got wrecked. First casualty of the race. And
he's from Mobile, Alabama, not Montgomery. I'm sorry.
This is not, I'm not being facetious in any way. He got booed every time he went around the track. every single time he made a lap, he got booed.
Joe, I've been to a
So,
lot of NASCAR races lately. That's not unprecedented.
right. So I don't know why NASCAR, getting back to the way that they market things, I don't know why they're trying or we're trying to make him the face of the sport, but that's not where it's at. Because he's just not a likable guy. He's just not. I mean, when you listen to him talk, you know, as far as the way he addresses the media, the way he addresses fans, he's not a likable person.
He's always a victim.
And right,
Nobody likes always a victim. I mean, there's a reason why they call Kyle Cryo Bush, because he sounds like a victim.
Right. And let's get one thing straight. It's not because of who he is. It's because of the way that he acts and the way that he addresses fans.
To put that more clearly, Joe, there's more people who liked Bubba Wallace before the incident.
Right. No,
Bubba Wallace was a likable driver, had Kyle Busch Motorsports, kept to himself. He played football with the fans, and the fans then saw that he was built upon a false accusation. And then NASCAR said, we're going to run with this, and built a false idol. And NASCAR fans are not stupid, despite if they're rednecks that like people that turn left, they're not dumb. Nobody likes an idol built upon something that's not true.
You know, I saw myself becoming a Bubba Wallace fan because I saw him race at Eldora in a truck race. And I thought that, you know, and of course I love dirt track racing anyway, right?
Yeah.
And I saw him run an incredible dirt race in the trucks at Eldora. And, you know, I said, you know, when this young man moves up, I'm probably going to be a fan of his, until the incident. And the way that he played it out, and to his credit, I think he tried to stay behind the scenes on that until he no longer could. But when he came out and played into it, instead of just saying, hey, I don't know where this came from, this had nothing to do with me, I think it's ridiculous. You know, I think that probably his reputation probably wouldn't have been shattered the way that it is today. But when he played into it, he lost every fan in NASCAR except a select few, 3 people out of 100,000. You know, and that's the way it's going to be. And NASCAR needs to recognize that he's not the face of your sport. And if you intend to build him and bill him as the face of your sport moving forward, you're going to continue to lose fans, because fans like you and I think it's absolutely ridiculous.
Right. And that's why we're not the mainstream media, and we want to tell you like it is, because we believe that we are able to engage with the everyday hardcore fan more so than Fox can, more so than NBC can, because we don't have an agenda. Our agenda is to serve you as the public and bring to light what is happening in the sport, but also bring to you an opinion not only that is well thought out, but has a common understanding of what this sport needs and what it needs to grow forward, because we're just two fans that really love this sport and we want to see it grow. I mean, we had a blast in Atlanta. Like, make no mistakes about it. I'm going to Martinsville here in a month. I love this sport. I love being a part of it. I love the fans of it. That's the thing that I love the most, Joe. I love the fans of it because of all the different types. We heard Jeff Gordon get booed when he took the stage.
Yeah, that was great. That was great.
We heard Jeff Gordon get booed. And it's like, that's why I'm here, is to hear those things and to be a part of those things. And when you slap the NASCAR fan in the face, they don't take lightly to it.
To be fair, we also were accused of stealing somebody's beer.
I forgot about that.
Is that my beer? I don't know, man. It might be your beer. I have no idea.
You pick it up, it's yours. We're not drinking it.
This is my beer. I'm going to take it. Is it still full? It's still full. This is my beer. I don't think it was that guy's beer.
No. He said somebody stole his koozie. I don't know. We didn't see it drop and run, but we also weren't willing to investigate it either. So, that being said, Joe, let's go ahead and move on to COTA, where we're expecting a lot of different drivers. We got IMSA champions. We have Formula One champions. We have, obviously, NASCAR champions, a huge class of drivers moving on to COTA. But before we get there, looking at the points, we both gained 6 points this past week. I got 4 from Corey LaJoy. You got 4 from Brad Keselowski. So we finally took advantage of the double the points for drivers outside of the top 20 from last year. And then we each got 1 or 2 points apiece based upon our drivers in the top 10. So you're currently sitting at 23 points. I'm at 19. If you want to participate, give us your 5 drivers that you would like to use this week. One driver has to be outside the top 20 from last year. We're getting close to the 25% mark of the season. And I said this before, where we have to use drivers outside the top 20 currently in the standings, but based upon the penalty, I might have to put asterisk, not Hendrick drivers as well. So
Yeah.
due to the penalty. Do you have a quick thought that you want to say about COTA before we move on to the race in Austin, Texas?
Well, I mean, it's just typical of really any road course. I mean, just like sometimes like a short track, a road course can be anybody's game. We saw Daniel Suarez pick up a win last year on a road course. These are really courses where AJ Allmendinger could pick up a win. Any of the road. What?
He might be named in a minute. So.
He's getting named in a minute. Back in the day, you talk about Robbie Gordon. He was always one that was really good on a road course. You never expected him to win, but when you got to a road course, you were like, hey, I'm going to throw Robbie in there this week.
Marcus Ambrose is a road course racer. Yep.
Could find the doggo say, could Amarola get a win? He could. Legitimately, anybody in the field not named JJ Yeley or Cody Ware could win this weekend.
I would say, Zach, as long as the 35 other drivers have a hard time making it out of the hauler and end up wrecking, and maybe there's a hurricane like what we saw during the first race, I think Eric Almirola has a great chance.
Yeah. So I think we got to the point last year, and we'll see where we're at the end of this year, especially with the new aero package on the next gen car this year. We'll see what that does. I think last year when we got to the first road course in COTA, we saw that incredible finish. We saw some good racing. I think I really had high hopes for the next gen car
yes, we both
on road courses. And then as the season progressed and we got into the third and fourth road course of the season, I was like, maybe I put the cart before the horse on this one, because it was not good racing at road courses outside of Indianapolis. I thought that was a good road course, and I don't think the Roval was too bad, but if I remember right. But I think COTA is going to be a great race, and I'm pretty excited to see a road course. It kind of changes things up, and I'm really kind of anxious to see if we do see any difference with the aero package at a road course, because I think really. When you talked about the mile, putting the aero package on that's not really a short track. And I don't know how much really an aero package on a short track is going to help. I think it can help on the long straightaways at COTA. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see drivers get up to fifth gear at COTA. I mean, it's unlike most road courses. It's completely different. I mean, it's literally like 4 world famous courses put together into one, and then named it after the United States. So
yeah.
America. But that being said, you will also, Joe, won't have stage cautions. I want to remind people of that, because
that's
the people that have had said a lot of cuss words, myself included, don't have to worry about stage cautions. Thank God.
I'm glad you brought that up, because last year we saw and I think Kyle Busch, maybe somebody was in one of the road courses last year, had a really good car and went for a stage win, and it essentially took them out of the rest of the way.
Pretty much all Hendrick cars did that.
Yeah. So I'm glad to see the end of that. I really don't know what the point of a stage is in a road course, because it's a totally different dynamic of racing. So you're absolutely right. I'm glad you brought that up, because I actually kind of forgot about that.
Yeah. So again, I'm excited to watch this race. I think that will be a good product. I hope that we can only wish for 3 drivers going down to the final stretch of it. But we shall see. Typically, the road courses, at least in the past, have always been really, really good. And I'm hoping for the same thing. That being said, Joe, 23 points. You lead me by 4. Would you like to make your picks first, or would you like me to start on the poll?
I'm going to let you go this week.
Alrighty. And again, put your picks in the comments. We'd love to keep score with you so you can show us how dumb we are. Maybe we'll have you as a guest.
Yeah.
My picks, I'm going to go pretty much based on last year. Number one, if you're choosing a driver outside the top 20 and you don't choose AJ Allmendinger, well, I'm not really sure what you're thinking. AJ Allmendinger is a tremendous road course racer. Probably should have won last year, but did not because he got Chastain. That being said, I'm also choosing Ross Chastain because he did run at this course last year, this track, and Trackhouse showed that they're really fast on road courses. The other driver he took out, Alex Bowman. Find the doggo. There you go. Alex Bowman. So I'm ready for him to finish in about 25th because I just chose Alex Bowman, unless he backs into a win. Daniel Suarez. He won at a road course last year. He was fast at road courses last year. Again, Trackhouse Racing has been good at them. I'm choosing Daniel Suarez. And the driver that arguably was the best at road courses last year, and this was kind of tough, Joe, because Toyota was god-awful at road courses last year. I'm going with Tyler Reddick.
Ooh.
So Tyler Reddick will be the driver that I choose last.
Well, I'm going to start off by saying those aren't bad picks. Good job. But I'm going to take the first two that you took as well for the same reason, Ross Chastain, AJ Allmendinger. I mean, I was going to pick them anyway. I know that.
I figured.
But I'm going to go ahead and take Kyle Larson. He's going to be my Hendrick driver. I think that, whatever.
I'm shocked.
I'm also going to take Kyle Busch. Did not look bad he looked bad on 2 road courses last year, 2 or 3, if I remember. But I think that he can run road courses. I think at
Joe, here's what we'll find out. And I don't mean to interrupt you. We'll find out, was it the RCR 8 that was good on road courses, right, or was it Tyler Reddick that was good on road courses? No,
I think you're absolutely right. But I'm going to take Kyle Busch. And then I'm going to go with somebody that I think is just on one, and I think that has the ability to win at road courses as well. I'm going to take Joey Logano this week.
Okay.
What's that face?
I mean, that's the face I make anytime somebody chooses Joey Logano. I don't like him.
Hey, I'm here to win. I hate that guy. I hate Ross Chastain now too. I've already revealed that during the show. That's true. I'm still taking him.
But you could have chosen Ross Chastain.
This is not about feelings. This is not about feelings. It's about whooping your ass for 2 years in a row, and I'm going to do it, by God.
Joe, I have a can of whoop ass every single time we make our picks, except when we do our betting. And you are in last place in our FanDuel lineups. Number one, because you forgot a week. But number two, because I open a can of whoop ass when it comes to that. And you're going to find out what my picks are because I made money the last week. I even had Joe come up to me and say, Ryan, make me a lineup. And I said, Joe, I'll make you a lineup. And I'll be damn if it didn't win some money.
Won me $5.
Won you $5.
Find the Doggo says F Logano with a rusty nail. And I agree. I don't like that guy. But this is about winning. This is about winning. And I will do anything. I will be the lowest of the low to win. Because I was raised a winner, by God. And that's what I do.
You know why I think Find the Doggo said that?
Why?
I think Find the Doggo possibly is losing his hair and found out that Joey Logano is gaining some back.
I don't think that that's real.
The hair or that comment?
The hair.
The hair is not real.
I don't think that's real.
Freaking Chia Pet has better hair than Joey.
I think that how old is Joey Logano now?
He's like 30, man.
30?
He's not even that old. Yeah, he's been racing since he was like 16.
He's having a midlife crisis. That's what that is. And it looks ridiculous. Joey, you ought to just let yourself go bald because it's okay, man. Of course, this is coming from somebody that has a full head of hair, but
that's a great point. He's 32, so I apologize. He is 1 year younger than myself. And if a midlife crisis includes a championship in your sport, I'll take it.
Yeah.
I will say that. I will take
Male
it.
pattern
That being
baldness
said,
is
I
nothing.
lost all the hair on my face.
Yeah, male pattern baldness is nothing to be upset about. I mean, you know, it happens, Joey. It happens. You should embrace it. You should be the voice of male pattern baldness. I actually think that there is probably some money in that for you. So you might be going about this the wrong way.
Yeah, he could have had Bosley on the car
Right.
if he wanted to.
Right.
No, normally most people associate male pattern baldness with an actual increase in testosterone, but I don't think people would do that with Joey Logano. So he said, "I'll wear the toupee."
Yeah, no, his is because of an influx in estrogen. I'm quite sure. You look at the guy's neck; it's like this big.
Well, that's our cue. Thank you for joining us, guys. We've hit over 200 people. We're at 230 plus now. And again, I don't want to make light of that because we absolutely love every single one of you guys for making this possible. We thought maybe we could hit 1,000 by the end of the year. You guys are crushing that right now. You're enjoying what we've been putting out. You know, Joe and I are going to be here. We love doing this with you guys. We have a great time. We hope that, we can condense it a little bit more. We had some more stuff. Oh, Jesus. There's a comment. I can see it now. What is it?
By the Doggo says the hurt is real. And then he said, somebody call Rogaine. Is that still a thing? I think it is.
I think now it's just hymns. I think now it's just, yeah, I think you get a non-discrete. Actually, Zach, I sent you one. You get a non-discrete box that has either hair product or horny goat weed slash tent pills. You should be getting yours, Zach. I wrote on there.
Weed you got left?
Do what?
How much horny goat weed you got left?
Well, I can go to the gas station and get some more. It was either take my kids to the arcade or get some horny goat weed. So.
Nice.
So, again, sorry, find the doggo. But again, I want to say thank you guys. We love doing this, and the reason why we're here is for you guys and to hopefully educate and have a good time and laugh with us as well. Our shows that are going to be recorded are going to be shorter. They're going to be more packed full of information. We want to get the most of your time as we can. We will do a post-race show that will be live after the COTA race. This is live because we were unable to do that because we were in Atlanta. So last week was a little bit in flux. But again, thank you. Like and subscribe if you like what you hear. We'll be here with you at the end of Sunday's race. Joe, do you have anything before we wave the checkered flag?
No, great show. We'll see you on Sunday.
Thank you all for commenting. We love the fact that you're joining us. Make sure that you do the same thing after Sunday. Maybe one of us will throw a fruit depending upon who wins the race. Yeah. But before we leave, one last chance. Kentucky Speedway, you are in our hearts. You are in our memories. We love you so much. All good things must come to an end, including this live stream. So we will see you Sunday.